You think family means safety? Think again. My name is Quit. Just Quit. It's not the kind of name you hear often in this neighborhood, and maybe that always made me feel a little bit on the outside. But the truth is, long before things fell apart, I had already stepped away, emotionally, mentally, quietly. They say marriages don't collapse overnight, that they rot slowly from within like a house built on soft soil. I used to believe in love that lasts through storms, until I realized we weren't even standing in the same storm anymore. In the beginning, Samantha Carter and I were inseparable. Late-night talks, ambitious plans, weekend road trips where the car broke down but laughter didn't. We weren't just building a marriage, we were building a future. We didn't want a house, we wanted a home. But somewhere around year 5, the cracks started whispering. It began with silence. Not the comforting kind, but the kind that fills a room with ghosts. We were trying for children back then. Month after month, disappointment after disappointment. Each pregnancy test felt like a slap from God. We tried clinics, injections, rigid schedules. Hope became clinical. Intimacy became a checklist. I watched Samantha break in slow motion. She stopped talking about baby names. She stopped smiling at ultrasound commercials. She started disappearing, first in spirit, then in body. She'd lie awake, facing the wall, breathing shallow, not touching me, not seeing me. I told myself it was grief. I told myself to be patient. But I was grieving too, and no one was holding me. By the 6th year, we were 2 people coexisting in a routine. The dinners grew shorter, the kisses vanished, our bed became cold terrain. I clung to the hope that she would come back, not physically but emotionally. I told myself, love is staying even when the other person stops reaching. But there's something cruel about being the only one left holding on. It doesn't feel noble. It feels humiliating. I started noticing things. The way Samantha would light up when texting someone else but never looked up when I walked in. The way she'd say, "I'm just tired," every single night. The way her phone was suddenly always face down. And still I stayed. Still, I fought ghosts while pretending they were shadows. Then came Miss Leon, her mother, dropping passive remarks during family dinners. You know, not every man is cut out for real responsibility. She didn't say my name, but she didn't have to. I swallowed my pride like poison, smiling politely while wondering if this is what marriage is supposed to decay into, polite cruelty. But the moment that shattered everything didn't come in a fight, or a confession, or even a final straw. It came in the shape of a favor. When Samantha asked me, softly but without eye contact, "Can Monica and her kids stay with us for a few days, just until she figures things out?" She was her sister, after all, recently divorced, devastated, 2 young children, no place to go. How could I say no? So I said yes, because I was raised to protect, because I believed doing the right thing still mattered. What I didn't know was that this one yes would be the quiet grenade that would blow apart the last remains of our marriage. And the most dangerous part? Nobody would even hear it explode, to be continued. But I didn't realize I had just welcomed chaos into my home, disguised as family. It started with a knock at the door. Samantha stood there holding the phone in one hand and a look of quiet urgency in the other. "It's Monica," she said. "She's not doing well. Can she stay here? Just a few days?" I nodded before she even finished. What else could I do? It was her sister. Recently divorced, 2 kids in tow, nowhere else to go. Of course I said yes. It felt like the human thing to do, maybe the husbandly thing to do. Monica showed up the next morning with 2 trash bags full of clothes, a stuffed pink unicorn, and a chaotic energy that filled the hallway before her voice did. "Hope you don't mind the noise. The kids get a little wild in new places," she said, as she walked in without waiting for an answer. Her kids, Gracie and Liam, stormed past my legs like mini tornadoes. Samantha was all hugs and relief. I stood in the doorway, shoes still on, wondering if I'd just let something loose into the house that wouldn't go back in. At first, I was patient. I told myself, a week, maybe 2, she'll get back on her feet. But 2 weeks turned into 3, then 4. Soon her bags were replaced with boxes. Her shampoo appeared next to Samantha's on the bathroom sink. Their laundry, mismatched, overflowing, mingled with ours. Her kids' toys began migrating into every corner of the house, under couches, on kitchen counters, even in our bedroom. I found a sticky lollipop pressed between my pillow and the wall. Still I said nothing. Still I waited. But waiting turned into enduring. Monica wasn't just loud, she was sharp, sarcastic. Every conversation was a jab dressed up as a joke. Every complaint I raised was met with a chuckle or a snide comment from her. And Samantha? She stood by her side every time. "She's just going through a lot," she'd say. "Be patient. It's family." Family. The word began to feel like a weapon. Every night I'd come home from work exhausted, craving just a little peace. Instead, I'd find spilled cereal, shrieking kids, and Monica on the couch watching reality TV like she owned the place. No job search, no plan, no sign of packing. Samantha and Monica would be whispering and giggling in the kitchen like sisters at a sleepover. I wasn't even invited into my own home's atmosphere anymore. I was just passing through it. The fight started small. "I just need some quiet." "She's your sister, not your shadow." This isn't what I agreed to. But every plea was twisted into selfishness. "You hate kids, don't you?" Monica snapped one evening. "You're just threatened because someone finally stands up to you," Samantha added. I was stunned. Threatened? Me? I was the one who gave them this roof. And now I couldn't even speak without being made the villain. And the thing that broke me? It wasn't the noise, or the clutter, or even the sarcasm. It was the night I walked into my bedroom and found Monica already asleep there, her kids tucked in next to her. Samantha glanced at me from the hallway and said, "Just for tonight, you can sleep in the guest room." Guest room? That was supposed to be hers. That night, I lay in that too small bed staring at the ceiling, realizing something brutal. This wasn't my home anymore, not in spirit, not in space, not in love. I was a ghost with keys to a house that no longer saw me. And yet, even in all that, I stayed. Because part of me still believed that Samantha was just lost, not gone. That maybe if I held on a little longer, she'd come back. But something inside me shifted. Slowly, quietly. A reckoning that whispered. I knew I wasn't her husband anymore, but I never expected I'd become the unwanted guest in my own home. I only stepped out for a few hours. My name is Quate, and by that point I had already become background noise in my own life. No agenda. Just a quiet drive to nowhere, a coffee with no conversation, a window rolled down far enough to pretend I was somewhere else. Somewhere I mattered. But when I pulled back onto our street, I saw more cars than usual lined along the curb. Balloons bounced lazily on our fence. Music spilled from the backyard like perfume from a bottle left uncapped. I slowed the car. Did I miss a birthday, an anniversary? No one had said a word. Inside the house, the hum of voices was louder than I remembered. Kids squealed, plates clattered. Someone laughed hard from the kitchen. I stepped into the backyard. It hit me. Everyone was here, everyone but me. Neighbors, cousins, relatives I hadn't seen in months. Some I didn't even recognize. Samantha was standing by the grill, flipping burgers and laughing with her mother, Miss Lian, as if this were the family she always pictured. Not once did she glance toward the door. No one seemed surprised to see me. In fact, one of the aunts, Linda, I think, called out, "Oh, perfect timing! Can you grab the tray from the table?" I forced a smile, walked over, lifted the tray like it didn't weigh more than it did. No one asked where I'd been. No one noticed I hadn't been there all along. Until someone did. A cousin, maybe Greg, maybe just a friend of the family, leaned in and said, "Hey, didn't even see you earlier. Have you been hiding inside?" I didn't answer. What could I say? No, I wasn't invited to the party in my own home. Then it happened. Through the laughter and chatter, Monica's voice sliced through. Honestly, if he disappeared tomorrow, I don't think anyone would even notice. She wasn't whispering. She wanted to be heard. And she was. The laughter didn't stop. It got louder. And then she added with a grin, "I didn't even realize he wasn't here earlier. Isn't that kind of telling?" I stood still. Across the yard, Samantha didn't flinch. She didn't correct her. She didn't defend me. She just smiled, not out of cruelty, but comfort. But as if Monica was right. As if I had become that forgettable. I looked down at the hot dog in my hand, still warm from the grill, raised it slightly like a toast and said just loud enough, "Challenge accepted." People chuckled, nervous laughs, unsure of my tone. No one really looked me in the eye. No one knew. That was the moment everything snapped inside me. I left the backyard without saying another word. The hallway inside was dim and quiet, as if even the house knew it was complicit. I passed the guest room where I'd slept the past 3 nights, past the master bedroom where Monica and her kids now napped like royalty, past the kitchen where balloons floated and trays of food piled high. I reached the closet, slid the door open and stared. I didn't cry, I didn't rage, I just started packing. Folded shirts, a worn hoodie, my passport, birth certificate, a few photos, things that proved I existed. It wasn't revenge, it was clarity. The realization that staying had become louder than leaving, and no one was listening anyway. That night, the barbecue died down, plates emptied, laughter faded. But something in me had already left. That day, I didn't vanish. I began erasing myself from a story where I had become the silent page everyone kept skipping. I didn't sleep that night. Not really. My name is Quit. And that night, I stopped being afraid of walking away. After the barbecue, after the laughter, after I raised that pathetic hot dog in mock salute, I went back inside while everyone was still dancing in my absence. The hallway lights were dim. The guest room door was cracked open. I heard Monica's snoring. My own bedroom, the one I once shared with Samantha, was occupied by someone who had mocked me just hours ago. I walked to the laundry room, opened the closet where we kept old boxes, and sat down on the floor like I was folding laundry. But instead, I started planning my escape. Not out of rage, not revenge, just survival. That night I made a list, not on paper, in my head, a checklist of what I'd need to leave behind. Quietly. First came the essentials. Birth certificate, passport, my laptop, my spare keys, a few sentimental photos. I packed only what I could carry in a single duffel bag, one bag. That's all my entire life had been reduced to in that house. The next morning, before Samantha even woke up, I drove across town and rented a small storage unit under a variation of my name. Cash only. The kind of place you'd never think to look. I brought boxes there, little by little, Some clothes, important documents, keepsakes I didn't want to be erased, when the next fight inevitably turned into a house-cleaning purge. I opened a new bank account at a different branch, shifted money slowly, quietly. I bought a burner phone, turned off location sharing on every device I owned, bookmarked listings for cabins in the mountains, places off the grid, cash only, no ID required. I didn't tell anyone, not even my one friend left in the city, because I knew if Samantha found out, or worse, Monica, they'd spin it as betrayal, or weakness, or cruelty. But what they never saw was that I had already been gone, for months, maybe longer. I waited for the right moment. Not dramatic, just silent. It came 2 weeks later, on a Wednesday. Samantha was out grocery shopping. Monica had taken the kids to a play date. The house was, for once, quiet. I walked into the kitchen and placed a yellow sticky note on the counter. On it, I wrote 5 words. You noticed yet? Q. Underneath the note was a manila envelope. Inside, signed divorce papers. I didn't leave a long letter. I didn't owe one. Not after being erased day by day, conversation by conversation, silence by silence. I walked out the front door, closed it gently behind me, and didn't look back. I drove to the edge of the state line, swapped out my SIM card at a gas station bathroom, and tossed the original into the storm drain. The wind felt different when no one knew your name anymore. I checked into a cabin I had prepaid 3 months in advance for, nestled deep in pine country. No internet unless I went into town, no neighbors, just birds, fog, and the sound of myself breathing, which I hadn't heard clearly in years. I lived on freelance work, quiet jobs, simple cash. Enough to eat, to keep the lights on, to sleep without listening for footsteps in the hall. For the first time in a long time, I didn't feel small. I didn't feel watched. I didn't feel erased. I just felt still. And in that stillness, I finally understood something I had been avoiding for years. Sometimes leaving isn't a betrayal. It's a final act of self-respect. But even in that cabin, even in that quiet, I kept wondering if Samantha ever found the note. And the scariest part, a part of me was afraid that she hadn't. 8 months, and that's how long it had been since I walked out of that house and disappeared like a shadow in the fog. My name is Quiet, and I had promised myself I would never look back. I didn't miss the noise, I didn't miss the walls, I didn't miss Monica screaming at her kids or Samantha pretending not to hear me. I didn't miss anything until I made the mistake of logging back in. It was a cold afternoon. I was trying to retrieve an old contract from one of my forgotten email accounts, the kind you make in college and never delete. I hadn't opened it since I left, but when I signed in, my screen filled with unread messages, dozens of them, all from one name, Samantha Carter. I stared for a while. I hovered over the trash icon. My cursor shook. Part of me wanted to erase them all, pretend I never saw them, but something made me click. The first one was sent 3 days after I left. The subject line was, "Are you serious right now?" It was brutal. Accusations, anger, all caps rage. "You're a coward. You abandoned me. You left me to clean up your mess." She talked about the divorce papers, how she found them on the counter, how she tore up the sticky note and threw it in the trash. She threatened legal action, said she'd make sure I regretted it. I kept reading. Each message after that came softer, still sharp, but less venom. By the 5th email, the tone had shifted. She wasn't yelling anymore. Now she was asking, "Where are you? Are you safe? Why didn't you say anything?" By the 10th, she was explaining, "I sent Monica and the kids away. They weren't helping. You were right. I just didn't want to admit it." One email stood out. It was sent late at night, no subject line. "I miss the way you used to sit at the edge of the bed and read." I used to pretend I was asleep, but I always watched you. You looked at peace. I miss that. It hit harder than I expected. I had convinced myself she never saw me, that she had stopped noticing me years ago, but this was something else. It wasn't an apology. It wasn't even a request. It was a memory, one I thought was mine alone. Then came the email that froze me. The bank called. They said the house might go into foreclosure if I miss another payment. I'm working 2 jobs now, and I still can't sleep. Every creak in the hallway makes me think it's you coming back. I felt something crack inside. This wasn't the Samantha who mocked me at the barbecue. This wasn't the woman who let Monica run the house. This was the girl I married, the one who once built pillow forts with me in the living room and danced barefoot to songs we didn't know the lyrics to. The final email was only 1 sentence long, no greeting, no sign-off. I still haven't signed the divorce papers. I leaned back in my chair, staring at the screen. 8 months of silence, 8 months of rebuilding my life. And here she was, still stuck in the ruins. I wanted to believe her. I wanted to believe she had changed. That losing me had finally made her see what I was trying to hold together for years. But there was a deeper truth I couldn't ignore. She only saw my worth after I vanished. And now I couldn't tell if what she missed was me, or just the version of me that stayed silent through the damage. My name is Quiet, and by that point, I hadn't spoken to Samantha in 8 months. I hadn't thought I'd ever see her again. But the thing about disappearing is, eventually, someone notices. Sometimes. It started innocently enough. I walked into a small coffee shop I liked on the edge of the nearby town. The kind of place where the barista knows you by your order, not your name. I was waiting for my black coffee when I heard someone behind me say, "Quiet?" I turned. It was Ryan. Old friend, mutual friend. One of the few people who knew both me and Samantha from the early days. Before all the cold dinners, before Monica's invasion, before I became a ghost with a wedding ring. He stared at me like I was a ghost. "You're here?" I nodded. "Just passing through." We didn't talk long. I didn't give much away. No address, no details, just a handshake and a nod. I left before my coffee even cooled. I should have known better. Less than a week later, someone knocked on the cabin door. 3 soft knocks, then silence. I stood frozen, half expecting it to be the landlord or maybe someone from town, but when I peeked through the curtain, it was her. Samantha. She looked thinner, older, not in a tired way, in a finally sees clearly kind of way. She didn't speak at first. Her eyes filled before her voice did. "I didn't know it was that bad," she whispered. "I didn't know I made you feel that small." She cried. Not the dramatic kind, the quiet, broken kind, the kind that doesn't need an audience. I let her speak. She said she missed me, that Monica was gone, that she signed up for therapy, that she was working 2 jobs to keep the house, that she stayed up every night reading my old emails, wondering how she didn't see the slow unraveling. I didn't interrupt. I didn't reach out. I didn't say her name. When she finally stopped talking, I stepped outside. We stood under the porch light, the cold night humming between us. "I'll come back," I said. "But only to finish this. We'll sign what needs signing. We'll do this right, like adults." Her face crumbled a little. "So that's it?" I nodded. "That's it." She didn't argue, didn't beg. She just looked at me, really looked at me, and I could finally see it. She wasn't blind anymore, just too late. She walked back to her car without another word. I stood on the steps, arms crossed, heart steady, watching the taillights disappear into the trees. And in that stillness I felt something strange. Not victory, not closure, just peace. A quiet acceptance that some endings don't come with fireworks, just silence and clean air. I signed the final papers 2 days later. No drama, no ceremony, just ink and truth. The following week, I sold the rest of what I owned. I didn't need much. The cabin, the air, the quiet, they were enough. But every now and then, I wonder.
Not about her, about me.
If I had left earlier, would she have changed? Or did it take losing me completely for her to finally see what love was supposed to feel like? She didn't lose me when I walked out. She lost me the moment I realized I deserved to be seen. They lied, I speak, subscribe. In my own family, I was just a guest.
Not love, just control. Subscribe channel Reddit Family Drama Stories.
They smiled in public. They broke me in private. They told their version. Now it's my turn.